that are not advised by us or come to us in several ways, they may need to very well study how to exit these kinds of assets, the timing of it, the treatment of capital gains tax and how it's calculated between the time they've held it or between the time they've realized it. So even though the existing assets, again, will fall in a grandfather regime style, however, I think the broader picture of the government's view on this is that if the prospect of gain or perhaps that extra premium market created for people to pay extra for housing and that secondary market over intrinsic value is not going to be as ludicrous. So people start thinking, well, I'm losing money on an investment. And I'm not going to make as a ludicrous as gain as I used to. I guess prima facie, most negatively geared properties in an established areas were not as good as an investment anyway to begin with. But now it's even worse. So a lot of investors start selling assets. Now, we may see change in asset prices as a result of that flow on domino effect of this policy making. Now, if one was to ask a question that we are paying effectively one of the largest capital gains tax on assets in the world compared to any other country, but then concurrently somebody has to look at this whole premise from the fact that Australian assets and Australian properly structured assets will probably still remain one of the most sought after assets on the planet. So is this going to kill housing? As a proper investment, no. If you did have a strategy to invest in housing and if you had a very studied narrative around your investing, well, you invested because around your narrative, not so much for the tax effect of it. If you just consistently gone and ran an investment model prima facie on your tax model, yes, your strategy will probably come undone.
Thanks, BJ. And then, so what I'm hearing is the strategy doesn't really change because of the tax implications. It's still an asset class that we need to consider and also have diversification for our clients in. One question I have is around how important does that mean for our clients to have valuations done, on the 1st of July 2027, for example? Is that something that they should all our clients be wary of and have, someone lined up to get that done and make sure that it's done?
Yes, that remains important, Derek, and that's a very good point you pointed out. And it remains critically important because some of these clients or some investors may very well see, and we may very well see prudent for them to depart from some of these assets or in layman term, offload them. So consequently, then there will be a hybrid model that will apply to the calculation of the capital gains tax on these assets pre July and post July 2028. So yes, therefore it's critical for us to have an understanding of some of the valuation of these assets, and particularly if there is a prospect of these asset prices significantly being influenced as a result of the new policies.
And then the second question I had, PJ, was, is it all properties that will be affected with the negative gearing, or is there certain properties that won't be impacted?
Yeah, so the new properties are exempt as what's purported. Again, none of these legislations are made laws yet in a fashion that we can reference to or precedents by way of the actual pieces of letters of the law in the tax rules. However, government says the new properties are exempt. That is not a bad thing or a good thing. I don't really know. There's really two sides to this, Derek. One is the efficacy of the policy, which really doesn't concern our clients in terms of first home buyers or the average taxpayer or the average person. However, it does probably reignite a rush demand for investors towards new homes because effectively what the government says they are exempt. Now, this is going to fuel a lot of building cost inflations and all these sorts of things. Naturally, again, with any tax reforms, there are winners and losers.